My name is Cyrus Rani. I lead marketing at Concentric AI. We have Todd Moran, who is the IT security engineering manager at Oceaneering. Oceaneering is a Fortune 1000 oil and gas company based in Houston. Would love you to just talk a little bit about Oceaneering. I mentioned that you're in the oil and gas industry, very large enterprise organization, and certainly talk a little bit about your role relative to data security.
As far as my role, focused on governance and compliance. Under our CISO, we kind of divide up between governance, compliance, and then the actual technology. So I've got a parallel manager that takes care of the hard technology. I take care of the tools like Concentric for governance, compliance perspective.
And as far as where your data is located,
Yep.
Is it on-prem? Is it in the cloud, in SaaS tools?
Oceaneering, we have data in Azure, in Microsoft as well. So kind of a very similar situation. Anything, it's not just oil and gas. We do have government, military information. We do a lot of work with NASA and space systems. And we do a lot of work with specific customers in the entertainment industry.
As far as the status quo, prior to looking at Concentric AI and implementing Concentric AI, what was the landscape of your data security and the status of it?
Well, this is our 60th year in business, and that's something that the marketing team is pushing. So Oceaneering's been around for 60 years. The status quo was whatever it took to get the job done. Very Wild West, very business siloed. You would say shadow IT. Fairly confidently that was existing. Departments would do what they needed, and things would just happen, without full involvement.
Did you have classification labeling in place at the time? What were they getting applied to the documents? What was the
Yes. So before Concentric, we being an Azure and M365 type of a customer, we started touching on to Purview. We've got some labels set up for emails, but they're all manual. And so we're at about a similar time frame as Zach, that we're transitioning to those automatic labels, transitioning to being able to have those categories for email and management of that data content.
And as far as the data that you're concerned most about, in particular, CUI data is something we've talked a little bit about.
Yep.
What is CUI data, and why is it so important to Oceaneering?
Confidential, unclassified information. Specifically, it's basically they've got 30-something categories of confidential, unclassified information. One of them is ITAR. Some of it's deals with a lot with NASA, with U.S. government. Some of it deals with arms trafficking. Your international encryption standards, those actually fall under the arms trafficking. So it's interesting to see different products that we create, different programs we create have to have international trafficking licenses. So
sure.
And I know Oceaneering's an arms dealer at that.
Yeah, really spans across every legal and illicit industry.
Yes. But the result is that data has to be explicitly tracked. It has to be explicitly controlled of who has access to it, where is it accessed. We're not allowed to have just a standard Office 365. We actually have to have a government level Azure deployment.
As far as just tools you've tried to do that classification with, going to name names like we talked, what have you tried in the past? You mentioned manual classification. Have you tried automated tools, and what were the challenges that you had with those?
We've tried the automated tools. They were not necessarily as accurate. They didn't have that AI component, but it was 5 years ago or so. The tools were excessively expensive. They were focused for on-prem at the time. It did not even have cloud capabilities. So we were we're kind of restricted by the products on the market at the time until Concentric came along.
Starting with DLP, how do we fit? How do we integrate with the enforcement part of what you're doing? Whether if you're using a Microsoft or DLP checkpoint, what are you using, and how do we integrate with that?
For DLP, we've got some targeted programs. For the Concentric aspects of it, we're using it to restrict our sharing. So in SharePoint, it's made for sharing. So you can share this data to my Yahoo account. I'm going to work on this later. I'm going to share this data to, it's a grocery list. I'm going to share it to my wife so she can pick up stuff. But what that does is it creates holes. So we were able to use Concentric to control those holes. We do have to share to business addresses, but then we use Concentric to block Gmail, Yahoo, personal email addresses. The free and public emails are a whole category list that we block using Concentric.
Are you sending notifications out when
Yes.
things are okay to the user, to their manager? How's that?
Directly to the user. If there's multiple incidents, then we start informing management and HR.
Were there challenges in the discovery of that CUI data, and what was different about Concentric that allowed it to discover it? Is it the AI, the context?
Yes, definitely the context. The good news is much of that data was tagged by default. When we started doing government business, 2012, 2015, they started having controls, and it's government business. So there are tags that exist on the document. We were able to put in custom filters, custom context of those tags into Concentric to track our data. Having multiple tenants, having a great employee retention. We have users that go from one department to a different department. They go into government, they go out of government, and they move their data with them. So we've used Concentric to find the government data that is migrated casually to the non-government status. So we're able to pull that out and keep it properly managed.
And so the risk management aspect of that high risk content, is just from a high level, we're just de-risking through the classification, the DLP aspect of it.
Correct. Your GitHub actions, your GitHub content that gets shared. Sometimes they share it with a customer. Sometimes the customer says, "Oh yeah, I'm not in the office. Just send it to my personal email." Well, we're violating those contracts by sharing with personal email, by having improper share conditions on those. So that's where Concentric helps us find that and keep those corrected.
You've worked with us a while. Over the years, you've expanded the deployment. Where did you start as far as the repository goes, and how has that expanded into other parts of your environment?
We were contemplating the on-prem, but our deployments are global, and it just didn't quite meet, not that Concentric didn't meet it, it's our budget and our project timelines didn't quite meet out. So we're not doing an on-prem type of a solution with Concentric right now. Should we? Probably, but it's not a priority for us right now, because we do have that move it to cloud type of a scenario. But I lost track of the question.
Yeah. Is it OneDrive, SharePoint? Where do we start?
Yeah. It was exactly basically OneDrive and SharePoint. We do have multiple tenants, the government tenant and the corporate tenant. So we're able to combine that into one dashboard. The metadata itself is not necessarily in Concentric. Yes, there's a path, but the data content itself is not in Concentric. So that meets our government requirements of not excessively sharing data.
Thank you for joining.
Enjoyed it.